Representative Jasmine Crockett just asked a simple question. Are the Proud Boys a white supremacist organization? The witnesses struggled. One said it depends on how you define it. Another said she had not read how they define themselves. Another said, no, they are not. Crockett asked about neo-Nazis. She finally got a yes. She said the president loves to coddle white supremacists.
Proud Boys are freaking white supremacists. Neo-Nazis are too. And this president, who loves to coddle white supremacists, has decided that they should be given checks. The reasons that I pointed to those particular organizations is because you can go and read, I don't know how many articles, as Dr. Swain wants people to read up.
She said they are being rewarded with taxpayer money through a slush fund. She said the same party that claims to love law and order is putting money in the pockets of people who tried to tear apart democracy. She listed the victims of white supremacist violence: Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 9 worshippers at Mother Emanuel, the 23 people murdered in El Paso, the 10 murdered in Buffalo. She said these killers were empowered by Republican racist rhetoric and policies. She yielded back. Let's watch.
Which are we going?
No, I was just going to note they were 36 seconds over, and I think Ms. Crockett needs to catch an airplane, so she could go
Gentleman
first.
from Texas, then we'll come to the gentleman from Florida.
Well. It is so hard to sit here and listen to this. That's one reason I watched the majority of this and didn't actually sit in this room, because I'm sure my faces would have told everything that I was thinking. Is there anyone that finds it odd? Well, can we start here? I'm gonna start with the entire panel. Are the Proud Boys a white supremacist organization, yes or no? Starting with Ms. Wiley.
It is my view they are.
It depends on how you define it. I have a book.
Okay, never mind.
It
Next.
depends on how you define it.
It's a yes or no. Proud Boys, how they define themselves. Are they white supremacists, yes or no?
I have not read a description of how they define themselves.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not on their mailing list, I don't know.
So are you only on the mailing list of?
I'm not like the
supremacists,
SPLC, I don't
or-
fund organizations that I'm
Oh, it just seemed like you were saying because you haven't received their mail, you only received the mail of white supremacists. But go ahead, last witness.
No, they're not white supremacists.
And you know what? I do believe that y'all believe that. Let's try another one. Neo-Nazis, Miss Wiley.
Well, yes.
What?
Nazis is in their name. Neo-Nazis, Dr. Swain.
Is the question still about the Proud Boys, or is it about the
Neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazi-
We have moved on. Neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazis are hate groups, and I have a book, 2002.
Okay, thank you so much.
About
So we're
hate
gonna-
groups
so-
that I suggest that you all read.
I'm reclaiming
It's a
my
long
time.
book.
I'm reclaiming my time. Neo-Nazis. Are they white supremacists?
Neo-Nazis, are they white supremacists?
Yes or no?
What's that?
Yes or no?
They're certainly anti-Semitic, which I would join with any member of the Democratic Party. Mr. Nadler earlier was talking about standing up for the Jewish
reclaiming
people.
my time.
I'd be happy
Next.
to do that.
Yes, they're white supremacists.
Woo, thank God. Jesus Christ, I didn't think we were going to get there. Oh my gosh, let me be clear. Proud Boys are freaking white supremacists. Neo-Nazis are too. And this president, who loves to coddle white supremacists, has decided that they should be given checks. The reasons that I pointed to those particular organizations is because you can go and read, I don't know how many articles, as Dr. Swain wants people to read up. I'm gonna be clear, I've read my fair share of books. I do have my fair share of degrees. It is clear that neo-Nazis as well as Proud Boys joined in on January 6th. Yet this slush fund that they keep talking about is specifically to give them money. So how dare this majority sit here and try to lecture this organization about money? Now, we're not talking about tax-paying dollars as we are in that slush fund. But you're telling me that $2 billion in the same country that I'm sure some of y'all would struggle with whether or not the enslavement of black people was good or bad. I'm not even gonna go there and ask y'all the question because y'all struggled with defining that these people were white supremacists. But this country still hasn't thought that reparations made sense for black folk in this country. But at the same time, they've decided that people that are in organizations that are absolutely white supremacy organizations should get our tax dollars because they decided to tear apart or attempt to tear apart our democracy. They are being rewarded. These are people that went through our criminal justice system. When people on that side of the aisle claim that they love law and order, they went through it. They either entered pleas of guilty or they were found guilty. And this president, on day one, his priority was not around racism. It was around doing things like letting them go and now putting money in their pockets. We haven't had one hearing on white supremacy. Yet when we look at things like the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 9 worshipers who were murdered at the Mother Emanuel AME Church, the 23 people murdered in 2019 during a shooting at Walmart in El Paso, the 10 people murdered during the 2022 shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, all of these were murdered by white supremacists who are empowered by the Republican Party's racist rhetoric and policies. This is the same party that wants to drag us back to the Jim Crow era. Some say that there aren't poll taxes, and I guess it's because they're not listing the amount of money. But when you tell somebody that they've got to go and pay for something, say, like a passport that costs over $100 in order to be able to vote, that looks like a poll tax to me. Some of y'all need to read up on your history books, the very same ones that the Republicans have decided that people should not hear about because you don't want real history taught in our schools because you're afraid that it's going to hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors were so savage that they would enslave black folk. You don't want them to understand why the 14th Amendment mattered then and it matters today. You don't want them to understand that when they draw these racist lines and tell black folk that they shouldn't have representation in this country, that it is against the Constitution. You want them to be ignorant so that they can sit up here and be your token for your mission.
Has expired. Well, you can't yield because you've done run out of time. But it looks
Representative Jasmine Crockett just delivered a masterclass in how to expose the hypocrisy of a party that claims to love law and order while rewarding white supremacists with taxpayer money. She did not come with a speech. She came with questions. She came with the names of victims. She came with the history of a country that has never fully reckoned with its racist past. And she left no doubt about the answer. The exchange was not just a routine hearing. It was a confrontation about the fundamental question of whether the government will confront white supremacy or empower it. It was a challenge to the Republican Party's claim to be the party of law and order. It was a reminder that the fight for racial justice is far from over. Crockett began by asking the panel if the Proud Boys are a white supremacist organization. The witnesses struggled. One said it depends on how you define it. Another said she had not read how they define themselves. Another said no, they are not. Crockett asked about neo-Nazis. She finally got a yes. She said she did not think they were going to get there. She said the president loves to coddle white supremacists. She said they are being rewarded with taxpayer money through a slush fund. She said the same party that claims to love law and order is putting money in the pockets of people who tried to tear apart democracy. The struggle of the witnesses to answer a simple question is revealing. If the Proud Boys are not white supremacists, what are they? If neo-Nazis are not white supremacists, what are they? The witnesses could not say. They could not bring themselves to state the obvious. They were afraid to offend the party that protects these groups. Crockett then listed the victims of white supremacist violence: Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 9 worshipers murdered at Mother Emanuel AME Church, the 23 people murdered in the 2019 shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, the 10 people murdered in the 2022 shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. She said all of these were murdered by white supremacists who are empowered by the Republican Party's racist rhetoric and policies. She said, this is the same party that wants to drag us back to the Jim Crow era. She said that requiring a passport to vote is a poll tax. She said Republicans do not want real history taught in schools because they are afraid it will hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors enslaved Black people. She said they want people to be ignorant so they can sit up here and be tokens. Crockett's argument is devastating. She did not need to prove that white supremacy exists. She only needed to show that the Republican Party is empowering it. She showed that the witnesses struggled to call the Proud Boys white supremacists. She showed that the administration is rewarding white supremacists with taxpayer money. She showed that the party claims to love law and order, but is putting money in the pockets of convicted criminals. She showed that the party is trying to suppress the vote through poll taxes. She showed that the party is trying to whitewash history by banning books. She showed that the party is empowering white supremacists through its rhetoric and policies. She showed that the party is dragging the country back to Jim Crow. The list of victims is a powerful indictment. Each name represents a life cut short by white supremacist violence. Each name represents a family that has been destroyed. Each name represents a community that has been terrorized. And each name represents a failure of the justice system. The killers were not just individuals. They were part of a movement. They were inspired by a rhetoric that dehumanizes people of color. They were emboldened by a political party that refuses to condemn them. Crockett did not just list the names. She connected them to the rhetoric. She connected them to the policies. She connected them to the party. She showed that white supremacist violence is not just a random occurrence. It is a direct result of the Republican Party's failure to confront white supremacy. The comparison to reparations is also powerful. Crockett said the country has never thought that reparations made sense for Black folk. But at the same time, it is rewarding white supremacists with taxpayer money. The contrast is stark. The country has never compensated the descendants of slaves for the centuries of forced labor, violence, and exploitation that their ancestors endured. But it is willing to compensate the people who tried to tear apart democracy. It is willing to reward the people who attacked the Capitol. It is willing to put money in the pockets of white supremacists. That is not justice. That is an inversion of justice. That is a reward for racism. Crockett's point about poll taxes is also important. She said requiring a passport to vote is a poll tax. The Constitution prohibits poll taxes. The 24th Amendment was passed to eliminate them. But the Republican Party has found new ways to suppress the vote. Voter ID laws, purges of voter rolls, restrictions on mail-in voting, closing polling places in minority neighborhoods. These are not just policy disagreements. They are efforts to disenfranchise voters of color. They are efforts to maintain power by reducing the number of people who can vote. Crockett called it what it is, a poll tax. Crockett's point about history is also important. She said Republicans do not want real history taught in schools because they are afraid it will hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors enslaved Black people. That is the heart of the debate over critical race theory. That is the heart of the debate over book bans. That is the heart of the debate over what students should learn. Republicans want to whitewash history. They want to present a sanitized version of the past that does not include the horrors of slavery, Jim Crow, and white supremacy. They want students to be ignorant so they can sit up here and be tokens. That is not education. That is indoctrination. Crockett's closing statement was the most important part of the exchange. She said Republicans do not want real history taught in schools because they are afraid it will hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors enslaved Black people. She said they want people to be ignorant so they can sit up here and be tokens. That is a powerful indictment. It is an indictment of a party that would rather suppress the truth than face it. It is an indictment of a party that would rather keep people ignorant than empower them. It is an indictment of a party that would rather maintain power than promote justice.